common weakness in studying history is to force those people into the mold of current laws and how we think. Bible characters did and said things that we may quickly judge by modern standards, standards that seem fair to us, but are oftentimes 3,000 or 4,000 years out of place. To illustrate, let's take a glimpse at Genesis chapter 16, where Sarah gives Abraham her handmaid to raise up an heir. At best, we may think, "Oh, I just don't understand why." Well, of course, Abraham needed an heir, and that's why, but why would she do that? At worst, we may think, that was a terrible sin. I wonder what the neighbors thought. Our sensibilities are offended by this. Before we go too far, I need to emphasize that things were different then and there. This is here and now. To illustrate, consider the levirate law of the Old Testament. Deuteronomy 25, verses 5 through 10. If a married man died without having an heir, his brother was to go in to his wife and raise up a son for him. We see in Genesis 38 that this was a practice existing before the Old Testament law went into effect. That God included it in the law made it an important legality in that day. So returning to Genesis 16, ignorance of the times would demand that we tread carefully in our view of Sarah, Abraham, and the handmaid named Hagar. Archaeology has actually revealed that a man without an heir had 4 legal options during that period. Number 1, he could adopt a son, which Abraham seems to have already done, as recorded in Genesis 15:2. Number 2, he could marry a second wife, which of course happened quite frequently, evidently. The third option was he could take a concubine, which also seemed to happen somewhat frequently. And then number 4, the wife could provide her servant to him to bear her child. So Sarah doesn't seem to be making up a novel solution here. She's actually presenting a legal course that was well known in that day. There are times when we need to apply Bible lessons to ourselves and our understanding of history instead of trying to apply our sensibilities to Bible characters. And that's true here where we're looking at Abraham and Sarah, because the lesson is that as much as they wanted Abraham to have an heir and for the promise of God to be fulfilled, there was no way that they could help it along. God would fulfill it in His own good time.